Hi, and welcome to the Ladybug Laboratory podcast. I am your host, Lily, and today is Sunday, the 12th of June. Welcome. This is a podcast about knitting, sewing, cross-stitch, crochet, general crafting, and anything else that I find myself up to. You can find me on Ravelry as ladybuglily. You can find me on Instagram as ladybug.lily, and of course, you can find me here. I'm going to start today out by giving a huge thank you to two lovely podcasters that mentioned me last week in their podcasts. First off, Christie of Christie Handknits, and of course the Arbor Twist podcast, which is a personal favorite of mine since I happen to be good friends with Rachel outside of podcasting. So thank you guys for giving me a shout out, and let's get started. Today we are going to have 5 main segments. We're going to have a general introduction segment, and then followed by some works in progress, some finished objects, mail call, and finally some knit-alongs and other general information, which we'll get to when we get there. So, let's start with our general introduction. I was thinking about it over the past 2 weeks, and I never really introduced myself and why I got into crafting. I think I was a little bit nervous. It was my first podcast. I'm sure you understand. So I started knitting when I was 5 years old. I went to visit my grandparents, and my grandmother, she knits, but she doesn't knit a lot. She mostly makes dishcloths and other things like that, and she loves to get them out. She really enjoys it, but she doesn't knit a lot. However, her mother, my great-grandmother, knit a lot. She would make every person in the family a worsted weight Fair Isle sweater every year for Christmas. And that may seem ridiculously thick to you, but they lived in upstate New York. So that was kind of something that they needed. And she used to knit the phone numbers into the back of the sweaters for the kids, and, you know, just in case they got lost. And she was an avid knitter, an absolutely avid knitter. And so her name was Grandma Lily. And I went to visit my grandma. She had her mom's knitting basket out and was knitting. And I found out that it was Grandma Lily's. And of course, my name is Lily. So I really wanted to learn. And I asked my grandmother to teach me. And she said she didn't have any extra knitting needles. She did. She had a wooden pair, but she told me very kindly that those had been her mom's, and she would really hate to have them broken, which I was 5. I totally understood that. So I said, well, Mom, if I can find something else to knit on, will you teach me? And she said, absolutely. And so I found a pair of barbecue skewers, and that is what I learned to knit on. And I mean, it seems absolutely ridiculous now, but at the time oh my gosh, I wanted to knit. It looked so magical the way that she was doing it. So I made a scarf for my American Girl doll. It was about this long. It was like 10 stitches wide. I loved it. And I sort of knit for a little bit after that, but I quickly put it down. A couple of years later, my mom's friend taught me how to crochet. And, you know, it was the same thing. I sort of knit, and then I put it down. And I kept picking up again, either knitting or crocheting every few years after that. And then it wasn't until I was in high school that I got really into it. But in the meantime, I did a lot of crafting. I made myself a purse out of can tabs and a basket out of old cassette tapes. So general DIY has always been my thing. I like to think of myself as a long-time knitter, but a recent fanatic. So that's how I got into crafting in general. My goal with this podcast is basically just to be part of a community. I've always been a very community-oriented person, and I don't really think there's much I can add to the community, but participating and being out there and being a part of it is really important to me, which is why I'm here. So yeah, we're going to pause for a second, and then we're going to start off with a works in progress segment. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to works in progress. The first work in progress that I have today is my Inara wrap. And you saw this last week. I'll show you the pattern again in case you don't remember what it looks like. It is a pattern on Ravelry as a Ravelry download. It is by Amba O'Brien. There it is. Some other pictures. I am knitting it on size 7 needles. These are my Knit Picks interchangeable needles, and I'm knitting it with my Lilt sock gradient sets in Ginger, Snap, and Olive, and that is by Black Trillium Fiber Studios. So this is the wrap. It is gigantic. It starts dark, it gets lighter, and I'm actually adapting the pattern a little bit to use most of my yarn. I was going to have a little bit more left over than I will, so I added I think 1 or 2 extra repeats in the lace section, and I added an extra 2 rows in the garter section. But last time that you saw this, I was about there-ish, kind of in the middle of the lace section of the first green chunk. And I've started the garter section of the second lightest green. So here we go. So I've got 5 browns done and 1 green. So that's of course 6 out of 10. I don't think that I'm going to finish this in time for my trip to the Cape like I had hoped. It's not going to happen. Let's be honest. It's just not. I leave in 5 days. So I'm not going to have a chance to finish this. But that's okay. I will finish it while I'm there, and it won't be blocked, but I'll be able to weave in the ends and wear it, at least for a little bit. I really am loving the way that it's coming out. It's very soft. It is an 85% merino, 15% silk blend. So, superwash, I believe. Actually, let me check that. I'm not sure it's superwash, but it is gorgeous. It is so soft, and the drape is just incredible. I mean, oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. And it's got that sheen that silk has. I don't know if you can see. There you go. Anyway, so that is my first work in progress. My second work in progress is actually, you haven't seen this yet, but it's almost done. This is something that was a hibernating whip last time that I podcasted. And that is my Woodland Winter mitts, and the pattern is by Knit Picks. It's done in Knit Picks palette yarn, but you have these 6 mittens as part of the kit, and I'm doing this one with the leaves. I had already made a version of these for my mom that I gave her for her birthday, and I wore them to work I couldn't tell if they were going to fit me or my mom. Either one of us would like them, but they ended up fitting my mom. But I wore them to work one day just to make sure that I was right, that they didn't fit me, that they would fit her. Her hands are a little bit bigger than mine. And one of my coworkers saw them, and she absolutely loved them. So I am making my coworker another version. Here they are. This is what it looks like. She picked out her own colors for this one. And the reason I've been working on these so much is because I do work on the school schedule, and so school gets out in a week right before I go to the Cape, and I really wanted to make sure that these could be done and that I could give them to her before school got out. As of last week when I podcasted, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, when I podcasted, I had this cuff completed. So now I have both mitts done. I have no idea why. Let's see, they're sort of supposed to go together. There we go. I have no idea why, but this one turned out like significantly bigger than the other one. There you go. You can't really tell, but it's definitely bigger. I used the same yarn, the same needles. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so all that I have left to do is go back and attach the thumbs on both mitts, and then I'm going to block them. These will probably be done by Monday or Tuesday, and I will give them to her before school is out, which means that you probably won't see them on the next podcast. I'll try and take a picture or something. So these will definitely be a finished object by next time that you see me. So yeah, that's my second set. I'm knitting those on size 1 and 2 needles. I'm doing size 1 for the cuff and the ribbing, and then size 2 for the patterning. I really like the way that they're coming out. It's of course almost 90 degrees here, so it's not like I'm going to wear them now, or she's going to wear them now. But that's all right. So moving on to my final work in progress for the week. These are a pair of socks that I started. Silly me, I started these, thinking that I would be able to finish them by the Cape. I don't know why I cast them on. I have to finish these before I leave. I already had the Inara wrap that I wanted to finish. I have that skirt that I want to finish. I have a couple other things I want to finish. I'm not really sure what I was thinking, but they're gorgeous. I love them. So these are my summer mesh socks. They are in Socks That Rock, the sock base, and the colorway is Portland Plaid. Look at that. I love the way this is showing up in the mesh. So it's a basic mesh pattern. Let me see. There we go. It's a basic mesh pattern for, there we go, the top of the sock, and then just stockinette on the bottom. I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I did 3 triangles instead of 2 to try and make it stay up on my heel a little bit more, because these are just going to be ankle socks. I think I'm going to rip back. I started doing a 1x1 rib to bind this off, but I think I'm going to rip back and make this last wedge of the heel a little bit smaller, just so that it's not quite so high and it's not quite as bulky of a heel. I have frogged really large portions of this 3 times in the last week because I'm basing it off of a pattern that is for someone with larger feet than I am and a much smaller gauge. So, I mean, here's what I have. It's not done by any means. I think probably 1 sock will be done in time for me to go, but probably not the second one. I'm knitting these on size 2 Addy Sock Turbo needles, and that is in my Dancing Sheep project bag, which is adorable, and you will hear more about it during mail call. Yeah, so that is all of the works in progress that I have for today, and we're going to pause for just a second and come back with some finished objects. Okay, today's finished object you might have already guessed, and it was a work in progress last time, and that is my Tuscarora top. I'll show you the pattern again. There's the pictures. That's what it looks like, and I am wearing it. So let me just stand up, see if I can get a better shot of this. There we go. Yeah, so that's my top. I am pretty happy with the way that it fits. It is linen. It was knit on size 5 Knit Picks interchangeable needles, and I used Fibra Natura flax, and it was in white, but then I dyed it this sort of like peachy brown color. I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. I did change the pattern a little bit, so I sort of combined sizes because my row gauge was correct, but my stitch gauge was correct, but my row gauge was too small, I think. I might have that the other way around. Anyway, I combined sizes. I used one size whenever I talked about repeats lengthwise, and I used another widthwise, which worked out pretty well. It does have you sort of bind off in a sloped bind off for the shoulders, like right along here. So the seam ends up being sort of in the middle, like that. There you go. You can see that. Yeah. And then it has you at the top just bind straight across. So like if you look at the pattern, let me grab it. If you look at the pattern, not really a great picture, but it's just straight. And on the Ravelry page, they have a picture of it from the front, and it's like cutting into her neck, and that bothers me so much. There's nothing that annoys me more than things cutting into my neck. Oh my goodness. So as I started sloping for the shoulders, I started sloping in the center too for a neckline, which meant that I had to do some sort of neckline decoration, and I just did like a basic 2x2 rib like I had done for the sleeves. I also decreased the rib right here along the shoulder seam as I went out, and I don't know how I feel about that. It sort of pulled up and made the neckline a little bit tighter and closer to my neck, which it wasn't before. I was a lot more comfortable with how it was before I put the ribbing on. So I might pull the rib back and not do the decreases here and see if that makes it hang down a little bit more. But in general, I'm really happy with this. It is super comfortable. I do have to pull it forward a little bit because of the neckline every once in a while. But I love it. It fits really well. I'm very happy with it. I was especially happy that I got it done because yesterday I went to, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and yesterday I had my third meeting of this particular campaign with my Dungeons and Dragons team. And I got to wear this, which was very exciting because the first meeting that we had, I was working on the front. The second meeting that we had, I was working on the back. So then the third meeting, I got to wear it, and that was awesome. It was really exciting, and they all did notice that I was wearing what I'd been working on last time. So that was pretty fun. I like it. I did finish it in time for my trip, as you can tell. So I'm very happy with that. And yeah, that is my only finished object for the week. Hopefully next time that you see me, I will have more. But there you go. That's about it. All right, and so now we're moving on to mail call. I got lots of exciting things in the mail this week. So to start with, I ordered from Selkie Studio, which is an Etsy shop. I will put the link in the description. Some stitch markers and some notions cases. So I want to start by showing you the notions cases. And I saved the packaging just so I could show you what it looked like. It came in these little Ziploc bags that fit perfectly. So that's her logo, Selkie Studio. And there you go. It fits right in. Isn't that adorable? So this is like 1 inch by 2 inches. Perfect. And it slides open. It's completely locking. You can't, nothing falls out of it. And it holds all your little notions. So I got one of those to put my darning needles in. And they fit perfectly. And when I say perfectly, I mean perfectly. Like, look at that. So that snaps closed. And then I got another one which has, oops, all these adorable squiggles on it. Here you go. And that one opens and it has all of my stitch markers. And some of these stitch markers I got from Selkie Studio. They are gorgeous. Here we go. I just want to hang them on something so you can see them. Look at that. It's gold and it's got this beautiful little amethyst bead. Let's see. I'll just hold it. Look at that. It's this beautiful amethyst bead. Can't get it to focus. Oh well. It's gorgeous. The camera is not doing it justice. So I got a set of 15 of them. They are beautiful. There you go. And they go along with my Miss Bab stitch markers, which are my other favorite stitch marker, in the other notions case. So they just pop in and then I slide it closed and it locks. I love these. I'm so glad that I got them. Oh my goodness. And she has the absolute best customer service ever. I definitely recommend Selkie Studio. So again, there's what her logo is like. Oh, this is what the stitch markers came on. They were sort of hanging in the bottom there. It was really cute, very adorable. I definitely recommend Selkie Studio. Yeah, that was really awesome. So my second acquisition or mail call this week is my Dancing Sheep project bag. I love this. It is a drawstring. It's perfect for a one skein project. So you can see I have my Portland plaid socks in there. I'm going to just sort of show it to you. So there's my skein of yarn and my sock. It's roughly about this big. It's perfect for socks. Absolutely perfect for socks. Which you can tell by the fact that it has all these little socks on a clothesline. Isn't that precious? So this is from the Dancing Sheep Etsy shop. This is her card. It's Katie. And she has, you can choose the color that goes on the top. And she has like, oh gosh, 12, 13 different options. And they're all pulled from one of the pairs of socks on here. I love it. I'm so happy with it. This is going to be a staple that I bring with me on my 2-week vacation because it's just fantastic. I could not ask for something better to just cart around when I'm camping, when I'm on the Cape, when I'm hiking. This is perfect. This is perfect. This is a plain bag. It's amazing. I'm so happy with this. It's very well made. And the drawstring is like a pretty secure close. You know how sometimes drawstrings like open? It stays. Like it stays. I love it. I love this. I'm very happy with it. So that was my second mail call. The third one I'm going to throw you back for a minute. Last time I talked about this particular jelly roll, I said this is the one that I had sort of cut up and organized it into all of the different colors. I'm going to put this down so it stops crinkling. Sorry. But I'm starting to make my own jelly roll patterns, and I did not have enough fabric in that particular jelly roll for the pattern that I wanted to make. So I just ordered like a 1/4 yard more of a couple of different fabrics from the jelly roll. I wanted to go ahead and do that, even though I won't get a chance to work on it for at least a couple of months, because the fabric was about to go out of print, and I really wanted to get the right fabric, right? So I went ahead and ordered that. It came in the mail about a week ago, and I'm very happy with it. My next mail call made me so happy. Oh my goodness, it made me so happy. So let me give you some context. I said that I worked in a school. I am very hesitant to talk about my job because working in a school means that I have students, and students know how to go on YouTube. So I don't want to talk too much about that on here. But I will say that ever since I decided to work in a school, I have wanted to be Miss Frizzle. And if you don't remember Magic School Bus from a kid, I don't know if you guys all watched it, but when I was a kid, I watched Magic School Bus, and Miss Frizzle was like my icon. I wanted to be her. She was so cool. And I found on ModCloth, which is an amazing website, by the way. I've never ordered anything from them, but they have very great inspiration if you're looking for it. I found on ModCloth a dress, which I will put a picture of here, and I fell in love with it the moment that I saw it. It's got this bookshelf print, and I teach, and I have a lot to do with books, and that's my colors. I do warm colors. I do deep autumn colors. It's perfect. I love gold. It was incredible. Everything about it screamed me. And by the time that I found it, it was discontinued. And I submitted a thing. I said, "Are you going to carry it again?" And they officially came back and said no. And I was heartbroken. And then I found the fabric. I am so excited! I'm gonna make myself a dress with this fabric. I'm so happy about it. Oh my goodness, it came in the mail and I jumped around for minutes. I'm so happy! I get to have a Miss Frizzle dress. Ah! I'm so excited. I'm so excited. You have no idea. So that came in the mail. That came from fabric.com. And the other thing that came in the mail is when I decided I was going to make my own version of it as soon as I found the fabric. I thought about, well, if I'm going to make something, I want it to be versatile. So why don't I make it double-sided? And I looked and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find a really great pattern to be the other side of it until I found this one. Look at that. Oh my goodness. So this is called the Renaissance Man Words print, and I'm gonna try and get it a little bit closer. There you go. I bet you probably can't see it. It's probably backwards, but it's got this sort of beige and brown backdrop, and then it has these beige and tan, I guess, not really beige and brown, and it has all these words on it, and it says things like the pen is mightier than the sword, knowledge is power, he that loves reading has everything, there is no friend as loyal as a book. Oh my goodness, everything I have learned from books. I think, therefore I am. To learn to read is to light a fire. We live and breathe words. I love this print. It makes me so happy, and it's going to be the reverse side of my book, Miss Frizzle dress, and I could not be more excited. As soon as I get back from my vacation, I think probably the first thing that I'm going to do is start getting started on this dress. I just cannot wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited. No idea. Oh my goodness. Okay, so not next time that you see me, but maybe the time after that or the time after that, I will have started my Miss Frizzle dress. Ah! So excited. And so then the last thing for mail call today is from Telltale Yarn. And my grandfather is very into sailing, very into boating, and I found a sock pattern online on Ravelry that was called, I don't remember exactly what it's called. Anyway, it's striped, so every other round is a different color of like blue or gray or something like that. And as you go up the sock, you start this motif on the side of the cuff that has sort of a sailboat pop out of it. And of course, I have to make that for my grandfather. So I already had this yarn, which is by Telltale Yarn Company. And what you have to know about Telltale Yarn Company is all of their yarn is made with marine influences. It's supposed to be, you know, ocean yarn. And it is so beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's squishy and it's durable and I just love it. So I had Oyster, which is this gorgeous gray. And I contacted the shop owner and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to make this pair of socks. What yarns do you think would go well with Oyster? Oh my goodness, she had the most amazing customer service. I mean, she would take 2 hanks of yarn, one of which would be Oyster and one would be something else, and she would twist them up and wind them into a hank together and then take pictures from different angles with different lighting and show me. Oh my gosh, I never would have expected that. I mean, when you ask a shop owner, what do you think would be best? Sometimes they don't say anything. At the very most, you expect them to be like, oh, this or this might work. I literally could not have asked for more effort to be put into this. So I finally settled on Bulkhead Blues, which the camera is not really doing justice, but it is sort of tonal. It's got this darker element and this lighter element. I'm very happy with it. It looks gorgeous next to the Oyster. This is her sort of label, Telltale Yarn. This is the Sailor Sock base, which means, you know, durable. It's 80% merino and 20% nylon. It is superwash. I love it! I'm so excited. So I don't know when I'm going to get started on those, but those are going to be for my grandfather for Christmas. And I'm actually making my grandmother something for Christmas too, which you'll probably hear about soon, but not today. All right, so I will be back in just a moment with our final segment. All right, for today's last segment, it's going to be knit-alongs, activities, various other connections to the knitting podcasting community. And to start with, I have 2 connections to Katie of Inside Number 23's podcast. And I just want to begin by showing you my knitting notebook. This is my notebook. I have used this notebook for about 2 years now. And every time I use it, I keep track of different things. So like I did a blanket, a crochet blanket, and I kept track of what order I did different colors in for different rows and how many grams each section took. And a variety of other things. For a while, I was trying to figure out how many yards I knit. Oh, you cannot see that. There you go. I was trying to figure out how many yards I knit a week, so that I could make sure that I was going to get all my Christmas gifts done last year. You know, in the back, I have a list of like all of the projects that I've already bought yarn for. You can't see anything that I'm showing you. I'm not sure why I'm showing you it. I'm just going to read it to you now. But in the beginning of the year, Katie of Inside Number 23 decided to do a 50 points for Gryffindor challenge for herself. And the idea is that every time that you purchase yarn, you lose points. And every time that you finish a project, you gain points. She also included fabric and sewing in there. I didn't. And maybe I should have, because I've basically been buying fabric instead of yarn now. But whatever. Maybe next year I'll do that. So I did my own version of... I'm going to stop showing you this now. I already said that, but I'm really going to do it this time. I did my own version of 50 points for Gryffindor. So I adapted it a little bit. Hers was pretty strict, but I adapted mine a little bit to make it a little bit easier. I knew that there were a lot of things that I would have to buy yarn for, like specific Christmas gifts that I wanted to make and such, and I'll talk more about those later. So I tried to make it a little bit easier to purchase yarn, but not so easy that I could purchase it for things other than things that I needed it for. So every time I get 100 grams of yarn, that's minus 5 points. Okay. Every time I get 50 grams of yarn, it's -2. Okay. So to earn my points back, to finish a pair of socks is 4 points. Gloves or mittens are 3 points. A shawl is 5 points, but I tend to do shawls that involve at least, 200 gram skeins. So I said if it's over 150 grams, then it's 8 points instead of 5. And that way it gives me a little bit more flexibility because sometimes shawls are really small, sometimes they're a lot bigger. A sweater is 5 points per 100 grams with a minimum of 15 points. And the reason that I put the minimum in is because I really want to focus on getting garments done this year. So that's what I did for sweaters. And then small projects, a dishcloth, a square and a blanket, a face scrubby, something like that. Those are 1 point. And then I did a couple of bonus points for myself. So if I'm using yarn that's from before 2016, I get a bonus point for that project. If I'm using a new technique, I get an extra bonus point. And if it's for somebody else, I get a bonus point. So I kept track of all of the ins and outs going in and out of my 50 points for Gryffindor. My goal was to get to 50 points for Gryffindor by the end of the year. That was my goal. I finished a pair of socks in January that I'd started in December. Technically, the yarn was from 2016 because I'm from before 2016 because, of course, I started them in December. So that was 5 points. I've only gone down from there. Yeah, I know, it's pretty bad. I got down to -10 points. I slowly worked my way back up to 2 points positive. I got back positive. And I have not been positive since then. I got all the way down to a very deep low of -114 points. Yeah. Like I said, most of that has been Christmas gifts, essentially. I mean, I'm making a couple of people sweaters. So I think one Christmas gift, one of those sweaters, I lost 45 points on it just because of the amount of yarn that I needed in all the different colors. And anyway, I've managed to get myself back up to -85 points when I finished my Tuscarora top. But then, of course, I went back down to -90 once I bought my Bulkhead blues. So I'm hoping that by the time you talk to me next, I will be down to -80. While I'm gone, I'm probably going to buy yarn because I do have a blanket that you'll see probably next week, or next podcast, excuse me, that is a travel blanket and it has a square for every place that I've been to. So we're going to 2 places on our 2-week trip. I'll probably buy 2 skeins of yarn. But I'm also going to have a lot of time to knit. So that's going to be -10 points. But I think I can probably get actual work done on my 50 points for Gryffindor. I think by the time you see me next, I should be below -90. Hopefully I'll be down to -80. We'll see. I'm going to Portland and I know they have a lot of yarn stores. I will be looking specifically for Quince & Co. because there's something that I want to do with Quince & Co. But if they don't have it, then I will be able to get down to -80. Yeah, we'll see. So the other thing that I'm keeping track of right now in my knitting notebook is the Glasgow Station Knit Along, and this is hosted by Eva Christie of Eva Christie Handknits. And the way that it works is basically by the end of 2016, you want to knit your way around the Glasgow subway station. So we all start at the same station and you track your meterage. And once you've gone through enough meters to get to the next station, then you go up to the next level. So right now, it did start on June 1st. So I was only able to count my ribbing from my sleeves and my neckline of my Tuscarora in the Glasgow Station Knit Along, which was about 50 meters. I have not calculated in my woodland mitts yet Partially because I haven't finished them. I want to just sort of do it all at once. Otherwise, I'm going to forget when I weighed them and what I added in. So once I finish those, I'm going to put them in all at once. I did have the cuff done already, so I weighed the cuff to see how much I would subtract. And what I'm going to do is weigh them when I'm done, then subtract the amount of the cuff, and then figure out based on the ball band how many meters are in a gram of Knit Picks palette. I did talk to Eva and she said it's totally fine. I mean, I know it's stranded, so there will be some in the back, but that's totally fine. It's also, I mean, if you're holding double, you can count the total meterage, so both strands. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to make my way around the entire station by the end of 2016, but we'll see. Third thing that I want to connect to is another thing that KT of Inside number 23 is doing, and that is Wardrobe Architect. So I really work hard on keeping a decent wardrobe and keeping everything sort of going together. And a couple of years ago, I moved from a very cold place to a much warmer place. I live in a much warmer place now. Again, I'm nervous about saying too much on here, but and so my entire wardrobe changed. I had a whole system down, and I feel like I haven't really recovered from that. And part of the reason for that is because I used to wear a lot of layers, which, you know, are important anywhere. But the layers that I would wear would not be removable. So I would wear fur-lined leggings under my pants. And you can't just take off fur-lined leggings if you get too warm. Like, the assumption if you're putting on fur-lined leggings under your pants or under your skirt is that they are going to stay on. And so a lot of the way that I dress has to do with just putting on more underneath my clothes as opposed to on top of my clothes. I've always been very into scarves and shawls and wrapping things around my neck, but I think the trouble that I'm having right now is if it's chilly in the morning and I throw on a pair of tights and then it gets up to 75 or 80 by the time that I leave school, what do I do then? I can't just go home with tights on. So I've been trying really hard to sort of figure out how I want to adapt my wardrobe and keep with my style. So I did the first week worksheet, and that basically has you go over your history and your philosophy and your culture, your community, your activities, your location, and your body, and how all of those things affect the way that you dress. This, by the way, is from the Wardrobe Architect series. It's a series of blog posts. If you just Google Wardrobe Architect, you'll find it. And I know that KT of Inside number 23 is participating as well. Basically, the biggest thing that I got out of doing this worksheet is that my clothes need to be functional, comfy, and fun. I don't like looking boring. I want to be fun. Like, I want a Miss Frizzle dress. I mean, I want to be fun. But I also am on my feet all day, every day. And working with young students, I need to make sure that if I bend over or I scoop a kid up, I'm not going to have my clothes fall off in a funny way. So they need to be functional and they need to be comfortable. They need to fit and they need to be professional because, you know, I work. But I also like them to be fun. And I always look to find a way to mix those two, the professional and the fun and the comfort and the function all sort of going together. Those are the main elements that I found coming out of this affect my style. And of course, location is something that really hit home for me too, because I did move, and that is a part of the reason that I'm doing this. So that's all for connections today. I might add a little bit more later on. I'm thinking about adding a What Would a Bookworm segment do, or some sort of reading segment. I've seen that on a couple of different podcasts. And I know I've seen a running segment on the Arbor Twist podcast. I might do that. But for now, I think I'm going to call it a day. And I hope that you enjoyed tuning in. I will not be here 2 weeks from now. I know this is a every other week podcast. It is not going to be an every other week podcast for this next segment because I will be on vacation. So a week from now, I will have been in Massachusetts for 24 hours. Okay. And then a week from that, I will be flying from Massachusetts to Portland, Oregon. I'm going to spend a week in Portland, Oregon. Then I'll get home. So you'll probably see me again in 3 weeks. I will do a podcast to brief you on my adventures being away. You probably won't see much progress on any of my sewing projects, since of course I'll be away, so I won't have my sewing machine. But you might see a lot of knitting progress, and you of course will get to see all of my stash that I got while I was out. So I hope that I see you then. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, and I appreciate you spending time with me. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much. I'm glad that you liked it. If you did like it, go ahead and hit subscribe or like. And hopefully I will see you guys in 3 weeks. All right, bye.